Afternoon, Cape Town. It's good to be back in the Mother City. It's been a few times that I've gotten the privilege to return to South Africa. It's great to be here. There's a lot of talent in the house, and what I'd like to do is talk to you today about an original swimming party. We have a swimming party afterwards. What we'll talk about is networks, social media networks, and how to get some insight out of what are no doubt volumes of tweets flying through the Wi-Fi here in this room right now. I am a sociologist. I come from California in the United States, and I work with an organization called the Social Media Research Foundation. We are a not-for-profit. We convert money into software, and our goal is to give you software that helps make network as a data structure safe for pie chart makers. So if you are not a programmer, any not programmers in the house? I'm not a programmer. Yeah, I can see some of you. Yeah, so my message is, yes, we need rocket scientists, but over the next 5 years, 10 years, I think we're going to see a trend, and that trend is similar to the trend of desktop publishing, where a very technical skill eventually becomes the kind of thing that you say, do the data science for me. You press a button. And so we're going to talk about that. We are a piece of software called NodeXL, the Network Overview, Discovery, and Exploration add-in for Excel. Obviously, geeky does sell here, so that probably counts. It's an acronym. And what we want to do is make it easy to essentially get and analyze and visualize the shape of a crowd. So crowds matter. It's remarkable that there's almost nothing you can't get done when 750,000 of your closest friends get together with you. And here in Tahrir, picture of Tahrir, you can only get about 750,000 people into that square. Even when they're treating each other nicely, they don't always. But how many people tweeted about Tahrir? More or less than were in Tahrir, do you think? More or less? More, yeah. So the cyber Tahrir is bigger than the physical Tahrir. And so if I tell you that there are 750,000 people in Tahrir Square, somebody's going to say the following sentence: send a photographer. Yeah, somebody did. And we get information from this picture of a crowd. There's a lot of information in that crowd. Crowds in social media also form, and yet we just don't get the same information. There's Mr. Obama with one of his crowds, and no doubt, I think this was the speech in which he was calling for increased federal funding for social media research, which I can get behind. It's not going anywhere in my country. But he's pointing at the Obama tweet stream, and I think his point is that the crowd in front of him is rich with information, and yet the tweet stream talking about him is a linear list. And the question is the thing at the top of the list, which is newest, most important? And of course, if you think what is new is important, we have a name for that. That's attention deficit disorder. And so can we find a better way of showing the shape of the crowd? It's there, it's latent, it's in the information. We just have to surface it. And that's what it looks like. This is a network of people. Every one of these people was on Twitter, and they tweeted, in this case, the word SOTU, State of the Union. It's a speech that the American president gives to the Congress every new year around end of January. And SOTU, State of the Union, became a topic of great interest in Twitter. People start tweeting about it. Did they form a crowd? Maybe they formed two or more crowds. And could you imagine that in the United States people would have a difference of opinion about politics? It happens, it's true. And so if you look at the words at the top of the groups, those words are the hashtags used most frequently by the people in that group. They've been grouped together by math, basically by the fact that some of them reply to or mention other people more than others. The blue people don't really talk to the red people. The red people don't talk to the blue people. We've divided ourselves by red and blue in the United States. And so the question for us is, how can we make it easy to surface this kind of data for all kinds of social media? Facebook, YouTube, wikis, blogs, email, because all of them have networks. Our job is to try to build something like this. It's only been, 54 years that we've actually seen this planet. We were on the planet a lot longer. We never saw a picture of the whole thing. We still don't have a picture of the entirety of social media. We don't have a picture of the landscape of how we connect. And yet there is a method. There is social network analysis. We can draw these complex diagrams, and using that, we can try to build a tool that would make it easier for average folks, non-programmers, to achieve what this thing did for photography. You may not recognize this, but this is the first ever breakout consumer product. It's not a consumer electronics device because there is no electricity in it. It's just a chemical mechanical device. And it is essentially a point and shoot camera. $5 US. You press the button 12 times, bring it to the drugstore. They gave you 12 photographs back in 3 weeks. It's Instagram 1.0. Can we build something like this so that you could take a picture of your hashtag, your brand, your topic, your Facebook page, your wiki, your email, and just press the button and get the picture? And the answer is sure we can. This is the Mammoth BI network map. Relatively up to date. I'll be making new ones as I sit in the audience throughout the day, and I'll be posting them and tweeting them. But all the profile photos are people who tweeted Mammoth BI, and there are lines connecting them if somebody said the other person's name, if they replied or mentioned that person. And we can learn a lot about the shape of our conversation in the virtual Mammoth BI. There's the physical one, you're sitting in it, but there's a virtual one as well. There are people tweeting in it. Some of them are here, some of them are not here. And we can use network theory to help us figure out, well, who's the center, who are the other clusters, what are they talking about, and using some math, we can figure out who are the influencers. These people are the people who are at the center of this conversation. Having recalculated this just a few minutes ago, which I didn't get into the slides because the slide guy said, don't do that anymore, what we found is that that lineup is changing, and some other people are now at the top of that list. You can find these images yourself if you have a laptop on you or a phone at NodeXLGraphGallery.org, NodeXLGraphGallery.org. We are also very interested in putting these tools into the hands of thousands of people, and at the moment about 1/3 people have downloaded our tool. About 10,000 times a day it gets used, and what we'd like to see is people around the planet use this to take pictures of the topics that they care about, that matter to them. I live in a very insular world where we really don't even see the rest of the planet, and it's been through interaction with my colleagues in other countries that we've started to see the difference between, let's say, Korean political network maps and US political network maps. You may take some comfort from the fact that in the Korean diet, people do hit each other occasionally, and yet the overlapping groups, the idea that there's polarization and a great deal of difference, actually is less in Korea than it is in the US. So what we want to show is that all social media has a network. It may come in different forms, but it always has a network in it. It's always about passing something from one person to another, and when you do that, you're forming a tie, and there are many kinds of ties on the internet. There are lots of ways of connecting to other people, the reply and the review and the rate and the mention, the follow and the friend, and so on. And when you do this, you're leaving a lot of data behind. You're leaving, this stream of database entries every time you tap and click. And our job is to try to get you to think link, to think about how the universe is really not about an entity and its attributes, but an entity and its relationships with other entities. How does A connect to B? Does A connect to B and B doesn't connect to A? Well, it could be. Could be that B also reciprocates. And these links come in different flavors and types. They could go in both directions. So the lends money to relationship tends to go in one direction. I don't know why that is, but it seems to happen. Then there's the is married to relationship, and we've studied this. That we find that if you are married to somebody who's not married to you, well, sociologists suggest counseling. Yeah. So these relationships could also come in different magnitudes. It could be that I call you, but you call me 10 times for every call. It could be that I just never call you at all and you call me a lot. And it could be that we, for example, live near each other. That's a kind of relationship that it's hard to live near you and you not live near me. So for the database folks, basically what we're trying to do is we can create a network whenever two grids can be joined. Give me two unique identifiers, phone numbers, email addresses, names, whatever it is. If it's unique for each individual and you tell me that there are two of them, you put them on a line together, I have a network. Now, yes, we can decorate it. We can put attributes like what time did this take place at, and how tall or how wealthy is person one, and how many times did person two ever tweet, and so on. But what we're looking for is essentially this row, and if we do that, you get this. That's what NodeXL looks like. That's your network in a NodeXL worksheet. And so when you want to change something, you reach in, you click on a cell, you type. And if you want to sort, you use everything you know about Excel. So what can we do? We can show you that social media is inherently network media. And that, of course, it goes beyond just social media. The world of humans, anyway, is a social network. We've been a social network since before Facebook. But now we have the ability to capture the data and now analyze the data. So network theory is this notion that dots and lines can represent people and their relationships, and that some dots have more lines, and some groups form within these networks. We call them groups or clusters. And so in SNA 101, you do have to learn some new vocabulary. Words like node and edge, vertex, and so on, cluster and centrality. But once you learn this language, you'll find that the tools now let you make the tool deliver the insight to you. We can show you how different people have different patterns in social media. Not everybody has the same local network. So, for example, a person whose network is one in which they sit in the center of a hub and spoke and all the arrows point outward, and none of the people they talk to each other, or most of them don't, that's an answer person, that's the expert. Versus somebody who is talking to a lot of people who talk to a lot of people who send each other a lot of messages, that's a discussion person. So different people leave different footprints in the sand, different patterns behind. So social network theory has been around for a while, mostly since 1932, when Jacob Moreno came from Romania to the United States and started teaching at NYU. Network theory does give us the ability to sort of capture the different qualities of organizations very beautifully. I spent 10 years at Microsoft. I assure you that's a very accurate representation of Microsoft. I will note that here at Oracle, this is the legal department, and that's engineering. And that, of course, would have been Steve Jobs there in the center of Apple. So networks can give us some insight, and recently we published some work with Pew Research. It's a fact tank in Washington, D.C. And what we were able to show is that there are basically 6 patterns that people form when they connect to each other in social media. They don't get told to do this, it's just the patterns that people will create. There's the divided pattern when two groups of people talk about the same thing but will not talk about it to one another. That's polarized or controversy. There's the professional in-group, everybody talks to everybody. There's the brand, nobody talks to anybody. There's the brand with a little community. And then there's the in and the out, hub and spoke, basically broadcast versus support. That's the schematic view. This is the real data that we collected through NodeXL. Using these real data sets, we began to categorize the kinds of crowd shapes people formed, and we noticed that we could take any one of them and put them into one of these 6 categories, or at least find a hybrid, some elements from each of these. There is a book. I have a copy with me, and if you email me at mark@smrfoundation.org, I'll get you a PDF of that book. That, of course, follows on this breakout bestseller. You can find it in the airport bookstore on the way out. So our goal for you is to automate this process, basically get you data, put it somewhere, analyze it, visualize it, and publish it, the critical last step. Have to share this information with other people, otherwise it really doesn't matter at all. And so what we'll help you find are things like who are the people who are the hubs, who are the bridges, that's my bridge, come visit my bridge, and who are the islands, because the mixture of these 3 types of people in your graph really determines what kind of graph you have. So those are the 6 kinds of social media networks. You could discover your own network just by using NodeXL, and if that's difficult, well, you know, using the tool, we'll use it for you. If you just go to connectedaction.net, there's a form there, and you can request a map. We'll make it for you and email it to you. So why would you do this? Well, largely because the influencers out there often have bigger audiences than you do, and what I'll show you in the time we have is that we could actually help you form the scientifically perfect tweet. Basically, find the name of the mayor, talk to that person about what they care about, and then change the subject to your brand. there's the workflow for achieving that goal. I hope you will try to use NodeXL to help you shape your networks. And keep in mind that the goal of your network development is not just to have your own audience, but to have your audience have an audience, and even better, for your audience to form a community. So with that, I think I'll just leave it there. Come and visit us at connectedaction.net, and you can request your own map, and we'll email one back to you. Thanks so much.